Imagine the next global economic shock is not inflation, not recession, not even a trade war. Imagine the real threat is far quieter, far more stubborn, and far easier to ignore. It is a habit. It is the habit of spending faster than we learn to produce. It is the habit of postponing hard choices until the arithmetic makes the choice for us. If that sounds abstract, let us make it real. Picture a rich country with world-class engineers, world-class brands, and world-class culture. Now picture that same country wrestling with chronic deficits, rising debt service, and a restless street. That story is not only about France. It is a mirror held up to many of us. Stay with me, because I am going to reveal a simple rule that predicts who prospers and who stagnates. It is one rule you can apply to your country, your company, even your household. And then I will give you a practical checklist that any serious government could start using tomorrow morning. I have packaged it into a plain English guide you can keep, with signals to watch and concrete moves that actually work. That guide is your reward at the end. Now let us go to the root of the problem, and more importantly, to the path out. Here is the uncomfortable truth. The world has been living off yesterday's victories. Many advanced economies built generous safety nets when growth was strong and populations were younger. That prosperity felt normal. In some places, it still does. But history has a way of whispering the same warning over and over again. The longer we confuse past momentum with present strength, the more brittle we become. The more we fund today by borrowing from tomorrow, the less freedom we keep for the day after tomorrow. France is a powerful example because the contrast is vivid. A nation of extraordinary talent, a nation that gave us high-speed rail, nuclear expertise, luxury powerhouses, and some of the most admired research institutions on Earth. And still, decade after decade, the national budget has tended to close in the red. Not every year, not everywhere, but often enough to matter. When you run persistent deficits, you do not simply owe money. You owe options. Every new year, a little more of the public wallet is already spoken for. Interest payments start to crowd out what matters most: schools, labs, logistics, defense, the safety net itself. This is not a moral drama. It is arithmetic. Deficit is the gap between what the government spends and what it collects this year. Debt is the pile of yesterday's gaps. If those gaps are small and temporary, a healthy economy shrugs them off. But if the gap becomes normal, if it is written into the political reflex, the interest bill grows faster than patience. And once lenders begin to doubt your plan, they ask for a premium. Then you pay more, not because you are poorer, but because they are wary. You feel the squeeze long before the public debate admits there is a squeeze at all. The same pattern repeats in many countries with different flags. Some rely heavily on volatile sectors like property or tourism. Some face energy costs that make it hard to export. Some bury entrepreneurs in well-meaning rules that take too long to navigate. Others rely on public transfers for social peace, while private investment quietly stalls. In each case, there are reasons. In each case, there are trade-offs. And in each case, the outcome depends on one hidden rule. Here is that rule in a plain language. A nation stays sovereign when the speed of its commitments does not exceed the speed of its real income. That is it. If obligations rise faster than the engine that feeds them, you can call it policy or justice or patriotism. The arithmetic still wins. A country can spend more or spend less. It can tax more or tax less. The decisive question is different. Are we spending at a sustainable speed, given how quickly we are learning to produce more value per hour? That is productivity. And are we choosing uses of money that actually raise that speed? When the rule is respected, everything else becomes easier. When it is not, even generous budgets begin to feel strangely small. Money is never the binding constraint on paper. Time is. Attention is. Permits are. Trust is. Confidence is. You can raise a tax. You can announce a plan. But you cannot decree productivity on a press conference. You build it like a bridge, with design, with discipline, with a timetable that you actually meet. Let us move from principle to practice. Think of competitiveness as a ratio. On one side, you have what it costs to produce a good or a service. Wages, energy, logistics, time. On the other side, you have how much you get done per hour of work. If costs rise faster than output per hour, margins are squeezed. If costs are stable and output increases, you win space. That is why reforms that trim payroll taxes for lower and middle wages can make sense if they are paired with training that lifts skill, with energy that is reliable, and with rules that are predictable. It is not ideology, it is engineering. Now widen the lens. Southern Europe has strengths that are often underrated: flexible talent, cultural industries, renewable potential, strategic geography. But many cities are still slow for permits. Many firms are small when scale would help them export. Many budgets assume steady growth while birth rates decline. Germany, the industrial anchor of the continent, faces its own trilemma of energy prices, aging, and the need to modernize factories for a cleaner future. The United Kingdom has deep capital markets and world-leading universities, yet stubborn productivity. The United States remains the global laboratory of innovation with the world's reserve currency and ferocious entrepreneurial culture, but also a federal deficit that outruns the business cycle and a political calendar that tempts procrastination. China is pivoting from property to advanced manufacturing and technology under demographic and confidence headwinds. Japan demonstrates that high debt can coexist with stability when domestic finance is deep, inflation is contained, and institutions are credible. Emerging economies from India to Indonesia, from Vietnam to Mexico, from Brazil to parts of Africa, stand to gain from nearshoring, from natural resources, and from youthful populations if institutions keep improving and power stays affordable. Different stories. One law. Keep commitments growing at the same speed as your real income, and preferably a little slower. Use the space you create to invest in the things that lift that speed for good. You do not fix this by cutting for the sake of cutting. You fix this by prioritizing with courage. Not every euro or dollar of public money is equal. Some euros change what the next decade can do. Others simply shift the same sand from one pocket to another. The job of policy is to move money toward the uses that unlock time, unlock talent, and unlock trust. Let us be concrete. There are 7 laws of macro discipline that any citizen can remember and any leader can apply. First, arithmetic is sovereign. Spend at the speed of sustainable income growth. If you go faster, call it what it is, a loan from your future self. Second, composition beats size. It is not how large the state is. It is the mix. How much goes to long-run capability? How much goes to maintenance? How much goes to yesterday? Third, productivity decides destiny. Without productivity gains, you will not hold wages, or the currency, or the tax base. Education that actually fits jobs. Research that actually flows to production. Adoption of proven technologies. These are not costs, they are multipliers. Fourth, energy must be reliable and reasonably priced. You cannot reindustrialize on a fragile grid. It will not happen. The specific mix differs by country, the requirement does not. Fifth, permissions are policy. A permit that takes 2 years is an invisible tax that raises no revenue and kills real projects. Set deadline guarantees. Make silence count as approval when standards are met. Measure time to yes. Sixth, demography is not a forecast. It is a schedule. If people live longer and fewer babies are born, pension math changes. The question is not whether to adapt. The question is when and how. Seventh, institutions mint trust. Markets forgive errors. They do not forgive improvisation without a plan. If you tell the truth early, if you hold your own rules, you lower your risk premium without spending a cent. Now let us clear out 3 myths that cost a fortune. Myth 1. A large state guarantees strong social outcomes. The reality. A large state guarantees large invoices. The outcomes depend on design, execution, and accountability. A euro spent on early childhood that lifts lifetime earnings is not the same euro as a transfer that changes little and never ends. Myth 2. We can borrow our way to growth. The reality. Debt is a lever. It works if you use it to buy assets that deliver more than the interest you pay. It fails if you use it to postpone choices while your competitive position erodes. Myth 3. Industry is gone from the West. The reality. Industry moves to where energy is predictable, rules are clear, talent is ready, and scale is possible. If you fix those 4 things, factories come back. If you do not, no subsidy can hold them. So what does a serious playbook look like? Here are 10 moves any government could start now, in normal language, with no magic. 1. Adopt a credible fiscal rule that focuses on the structural deficit and not just the headline number. Include an escape clause for real emergencies. Publish a timetable for correction and stick to it. 2. Lighten the tax wedge on low and middle wages to boost take-home pay and formal hiring. Make up the revenue by broadening bases that distort less and by closing loopholes that serve lobbying more than people. 3. Create a fast track for permits in energy, housing, and industrial projects. Put a maximum legal response time on every step. If criteria are satisfied, silence means approval. 4. Secure competitive energy. Keep what is reliable. Build what is clean. Upgrade transmission. Invest in storage. Price signals should reward flexibility and security. 5. Fund research and development with independent evaluation. Tie a share of public grants to demonstrated spillovers, adoption by industry, and social return. Celebrate failure that learns. Cut failure that repeats. 6. Upgrade human capital at speed. Expand vocational training that is truly dual, with firms at the center. Pay for results based on job placement and wage growth. Make immigration for high-need skills quick, courteous, and digital. 7. Invest in logistics. Ports that clear in hours, not days. Customs that are 100% online. Rail that moves heavy freight off congested roads. The cheapest factory is often the road that gets you there. 8. Write rules that reward scale, where scale creates productivity. Let small firms grow into champions. Use transparent tenders to invite consortia that export together. Build clusters, not islands. 9. Protect contracts. Do not rewrite past agreements unless survival demands it, and the plan for recovery is public, specific, and time-bound. Legal certainty lowers your borrowing costs more than a speech ever will. 10. Build the city around the factory. If housing is too expensive or commutes are too long, talent leaves. Schools, clinics, and transit near industrial hubs are not social extras. They are production assets. That is the playbook. But how do you, as a citizen or investor or student, know if your country is on the path? Watch the signals. Watch the structural deficit as a share of the economy. Watch interest cost as a share of government revenue. Watch productivity per hour against labor cost per hour. Watch the price and stability of industrial power. Watch average permit times. Watch how many technical graduates find work in their field within 12 months and at what starting pay. Watch the trade balance in medium and high technology goods. Watch the predictability of rules and the speed of courts. These are not abstract. They are dashboards for your future. Now let us loop back. You may be thinking, this sounds like a lot. It is. And that is why the habit of postponement is so tempting. You can always say, just one more year, just one more budget, just one more program, until the next shock arrives and the bill arrives with it, and all the easy options are gone. The lesson of France is not that a great country has failed. The lesson is that even great countries can drift when prosperity becomes a story. On sea, we tell ourselves, rather than a machine we maintain. France still holds immense strengths. So do Spain, Italy, Portugal, Greece. So do Germany and the United Kingdom. So do the United States, China, Japan, India, Indonesia, Vietnam, Mexico, Brazil, and many others. The question is not, do we have advantages? The question is, do we arrange those advantages with discipline? Do we choose the things that compound? Do we keep the promises that matter and slow the promises we cannot yet afford? Sovereignty is not a slogan. It is a math problem. If you remember one thing from this video, let it be this: prosperity is speed control. If your commitments accelerate faster than your productive capacity, you are borrowing dignity from the future. If your commitments are tethered to your true income and you invest hard in things that raise that income, you are buying freedom at a discount. Here is your reward for staying to the end. Subscribe if you want more practical macro that respects your time and your intelligence. Share this with someone who can make decisions where you live. Discipline is to an economy what pruning is to a vineyard. The hard part is not cutting. The hard part is knowing where and when. If we learn to make those choices before the arithmetic forces our hand, we will keep the most precious asset any society can own: the power to decide our own future.